Hello, everybody. Tonight, nobody was able to make the call, so I am making you a video. So, book study, we are week 2. And so I want to briefly touch on fueling your body to teach. And I have a workbook here somewhere. And what I want to talk about this week is intentionality. I'm just double checking something here before I jump right in. When we take care of ourselves, there's this intentionality that happens. And I want to share what's going on with me personally to give an example of that. So I've got some stuff going on with my energy. Haven't figured it out. Don't know if it's iron, don't know if it's thyroid, in the process of figuring it out. And what happened this morning was I went out and I checked cows because we live on a ranch, and I did some walking in there to figure something out. And that exhausted me. It sucked my energy. And so I'm like, oh, how am I going to finish the rest of my day? That was at 7 o'clock this morning, and I had no energy left. So, a couple things for me in my awareness and in my noticing. A couple days ago, I noticed some of the trouble I've been having started in the beginning of the new year when I realized I'd been staying up until 10 or 11 o'clock at night on a regular basis. And that doesn't work for me. And I know that. So I was like, oh, all I need to do is go to bed early. So last night I was asleep by 9 o'clock. Tonight I'm shooting for the same thing. So there's this intentionality that happens when we fuel our body. Our body does so much for us. Like if we think about our liver and the 500 plus functions it does and how it keeps us standing all day, and our vocal cords keep us talking all day, and our nervous system and our circulatory system and all of the systems in our body, there is so much going on. And when we overtax those systems, they don't work correctly for us. So then there's this investigation that needs to happen so we can figure out what's going on and how we can solve our challenges. So I'm going to read a little bit to you from page 13, chapter 2, Fuel Your Body to Teach. We live in a society which expects us to be overwhelmed and overstimulated. I am guilty of that too. It is like a societal thing. There's things in front of us that can be there all the time with our phones, with our computers, with work, with kids. Like, let's talk about overstimulated when there's 30 kids that want your attention. This leads us to not taking care of ourselves. This, this feeling leaks into all areas of our life. Unfortunately, it is the norm. I'd like to propose that the food we eat needs to fuel us for maximum capacity and energy and not to spill our bellies. Regular, healthy sleep cycles aid in bringing fuel as well. We need this to rejuvenate us on all levels so we are better able to show up fully and contribute to the world in our own unique way. Adding in meditation is the icing on the cake as we step into self-care to create a foundation for the unique impact we are here to have. And the good news is we have control over all of these above choices. So we get to choose what we put in our body. And I know some of you who are far up north maybe have restrictions on food that's available. So I want to acknowledge that, and I don't want to dismiss that. And sleep. So it's like, how do we decide what our sleep schedule is? How do we decide what's best for us? And not, I just want to throw out there, some of us are like, oh, I'm a night owl. I'm like, are you really? Or is that just what you've trained your body to do for the last 2, 5, 10, 30 years? For me personally, if I am winding down at 8:30, that is best for me and my body. If I wait and start winding down at 9 o'clock, then my second wind starts to kick in, and then there's confusion, which then makes it hard for me to go to sleep. For me, there's a correlation between sleeping and inflammation. So when I have more inflammation, I tend to wake up more, sometimes with aches in my body, which again, I'm working on. So when we look at sleep, if we can be to bed before 10 o'clock, that is best. because then our body actually gets to rejuvenate itself. It gets to heal those systems, and then those systems actually get a break when we're sleeping. Looking at the food that we're intaking. And then there's this part that I'm getting so much better at, so much better at, where I used to be like, okay, set myself up for an hour and a half in the morning for success for my whole entire day. And then by 5 o'clock, I was done. Can we get into the habit of giving ourselves a little bit extra at lunch? So it's like, what really makes you feel good? I love to go for walks. I love to do a meditation, laying down under a weighted blanket, stretching and yoga or human garage are really helpful for me right now. Water. And so, what are those things throughout the day that you can top your fuel tank up with so that when you get to the end of the day, you're not running on empty? And I invite you to do a couple of those things like at recess time, at lunchtime, right after school, and when you get home. And it can be something as simple as pausing and taking 10 breaths and being really present in those 10 breaths. And you can do it with your students. This doesn't have to be something separate that you do outside of your classroom. For some of you, you're going to need to do that, and that's okay. For others, you can do it with your students. And if you're like me, you'll have the voice in your head. They're going to think it's silly. They're not going to want to do it. As I practiced this with the classes I taught, the kids, what I discovered was the kids who needed it the most avoided it and were really grateful for it. And lots of kids just really needed permission to rest. So I just want to kind of plant that seed. If we are models for the little humans or the big humans that we teach, what we're doing in our life, they're watching, they're learning. So for me, for example, it's like I have a teenage daughter. Am I teaching, what am I teaching her? Am I teaching her to sacrifice my own body and my own needs to support the people in my house? Sometimes, absolutely. Am I teaching her it's okay to say no? Absolutely. Am I teaching her to argue with her dad? Yes. Unintentionally, but I did realize I'm like, ooh, she doesn't take direction very well. That might be me in modeling because I don't take direction from my husband very well. So things like that are kind of funny, but then they're kind of not. So it's like, what are we teaching students indirectly, just in how we behave, in how we commit to our time, in how sometimes we're like, whoa, everybody needs to stop. Everybody needs to sit down and take a minute. And in your classroom, it can be, okay, no talking, pull out a book and read it, pull out a piece of paper and draw or write. It doesn't matter what they do, but there's this pause on everything. And they can even just sit and do nothing. So we are leaders in our community, whether we give ourselves that label or not. And then how are we teaching students to be leaders by our own actions and just by being who we are? So I know that's a lot. And sometimes, I should have brought my water, but I missed it. Sometimes the fact that it's our choice can be a hard pill to swallow. It's kind of cool that it gets to be our choice because it gives us the power to change whatever we want to change. Meditation, water, the food we eat, how much time we're sleeping, how much time we spend at school, when we go to school, when we leave school, how we choose to interact with our students. We have control over all of that. Which means what we've created so far, our choices have created. We've created that, nobody else. And for some people, that's like, yes, I get to change it. And other people are like, oh, I've created this. There's a kind of a double-edged sword there sometimes. So I want you to just kind of like think about that intentionality of who you want to be, the ripple effect you want to have, and how do you take care of this body of yours, this mind of yours, your energy, so that you can show up and be the best teacher you can. And there's days that you're going to knock it out of the park, and there's days you're going to drag along and everywhere in between. And that's okay. When you can intentionally set yourself up for success because you're fueling your body, you know you're taking steps in the right direction. And I think I already mentioned this, but it warrants being mentioned again. Sometimes things are like, check off a box, did my report card comments, posted my grades, left school at 4 o'clock today. Those are check mark things. Sometimes things like meditation and what we choose to put in our body to fuel it and our sleep schedule, they're not necessarily check boxes. They're like this continuum and this journey that we're on that changes by season, changes by location, and it changes by who we're around. And there's so many factors that can change those things. Ultimately, they're a choice, but there are factors that contribute to them. And they change all the time. So let that be okay. It can be a checkbox of like my checkbox yesterday was asleep by 9 o'clock. One day, yes. Tonight I'm going for day 2. So I'm building up that momentum and consistency. But like I said, in December and January, I was going to bed at 10 and 11 o'clock. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm still struggling with it. And it's almost May. So there's something going on that I'm working through, trying to give myself grace. And some days I'm better at it than others. And other days my body just takes me right out, like today, where it's like, okay, at 10 o'clock, I was under the weighted blanket doing a meditation. At 2 o'clock, I was just resting on the couch. So just things to be aware of as you're reading these chapters 1 and 2, about how you fuel yourself, and that your personal care is most important because that dictates the energy you bring to the classroom. It is an indicator of the patience that you have for the humans that you teach in those rooms. It's an indicator for your creativity when you're lesson planning or unit planning. And it's an indicator of how organized and planned you are when you can take care of yourself. And that means setting those boundaries of, okay, I'm going to school at 7 o'clock this morning and Friday as well, but Monday and Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I'm not going to school till 8 o'clock. So it's like, what are those boundaries? And lastly, I want to say, who can you reach out to support for? There might be people in your building, you might have roommates. We might be it, right? You might be feeling alone, and that's why you've landed here with us. And some of you are physically isolated. So take a breath. I want to honor the dynamics that you're in, honor the amazing human being you are for showing up here and making a difference in your own life so you can put yourself first, so you can serve your students better. That's what I've got for you today. See you on the Q&A call on Saturday, May 3rd at 10 o'clock. Talk to you later.